Senator Joseph Lieberman was born in 1942 in Stamford, Connecticut, to a family of Jewish immigrants. By 2000, he had become the first Jew ever to be nominated as a major party's candidate for the office of the Vice President of the United States. Senator Lieberman was first elected to the Connecticut Senate in 1970 and then served as the Attorney General of Connecticut. Next, Senator Lieberman set his sights on Washington and was elected to the United States Senate in 1988, where he became known as the moral conscience of the Senate. Throughout his remarkable career in public life, Senator Joseph Lieberman stood out for many things: his work ethic, his bipartisanship, his fight for civil rights, and his clear moral compass. But more than anything, Senator Lieberman stood out for his fiercely proud Jewish identity. From the Connecticut General Assembly to the United States Senate to the presidential campaign trail, Senator Lieberman never compromised on the values instilled in him by his parents and grandparents. In the harsh glare of the public spotlight, Senator Lieberman held tight to his own inner light. His Chabad observance became legendary, and his kosher diet became the talk at water coolers around the nation. From praying in talit and tefillin aboard Air Force One to proudly kissing his mezuzah before the press photographers, Senator Joseph Lieberman became one of the greatest icons of Kiddush Hashem this nation has ever seen. But more important than what he showed the world is what Senator Lieberman demonstrated to a generation of young American Jews: that a person can reach the very pinnacles of success and still be a proud and practicing Jew, and that even when standing in the Oval Office, one still stands before God. As someone who so proudly and consistently celebrates his Judaism, Senator Lieberman was always attracted to the kindred spirits in Chabad. Early in his career, Senator Lieberman developed a close personal relationship with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe blessed the senator to be a source of pride for the Jewish people.
Going to Washington this afternoon, and I'm going to take the oath on Tuesday, and I wanted very much to come by and ask for your bracha as I go forward. It's a great opportunity and a great responsibility to do whatever I can for Kiddush Hashem.
You have my bracha in the double party today. God Almighty bless you to be much successful in your new position and to be a great source of pride for the Jewish people in general.
Thank you, Rebbe. I'm going to try my best. David Chase is, if I may mix my ethnic metaphors, the godfather of this Chabad and much of the good that Chabad does around the world, and so much else that's good that's happened for so many people. Dear friend, I want to thank Alan Lazowski for all he has contributed to Chabad and to the community. To say a particular mazel tov to David Gillis and Gary Greenberg, and to thank Rabbi Gopin. I don't want to go back to the political, but I was thinking for some reason it gives you an indication of a state of mind. You know, in my campaign when they introduce me, they say, "Go Joe, go Joe." I think tonight we should say, "Go, go Gopin." He has the light and spirit of the Rebbe and of Torah Judaism in him. He is contagious, isn't he? And we're all slightly afflicted by him. Some greatly afflicted by him. But Rabbi Gopin, truly, my invocation is may God bless all who support Rabbi Gopin and the work of Chabad Lubavitch.
Please welcome the Honorable Senator Joseph Lieberman.
Thank you so much. I accept your nomination. Really, that was beautiful. I'm really touched to be here. It's like going home again. I apologize. Just like in the tape from the last time I was here, 2006, must be the time of year. I'm getting over a cold as I was that night, but that's not going to stop me from speaking, of course. Well, first, thanks to Lee Gold, to Rabbi Gopin, to Rabbi Darren, and to Cheryl Chase and to Alan Lazowski. It's actually a wonderful thing, isn't it, that we have the second generation of these two great families, the Chases and the Lazowskis, still community leaders in every way. Matter of fact, oddly, if you go on with that tape, you'll see that the two people I mentioned that night in 2006 were David Chase and Rabbi Lazowski. And thank God, Rabbi, you're here. When Rabbi Gopin asked me if I would be the keynoter and be honored, obviously I was honored. I thought to myself, this Rabbi Gopin and Chabad of Hartford is so wonderful, and I felt so close to them that I wanted to try to support them. But honestly, I thought of something else at this stage of my life. As I look back, I wanted the opportunity to come to this Hartford community and say thank you to you and to your parents in the earlier generation. Because when I came here at first, particularly as a candidate for Attorney General in 1982, you welcomed me. You were tremendous friends and supporters. And everything that I was able to do in the years following, 6 years as Attorney General, 24 years as a U.S. Senator, and way beyond anything I dreamed of, to run for Vice President of the United States, and many people think to be elected Vice President of the United States. But that's a long story, that's another story. But it was based on so much of the wonderful support and steadfast loyalty that I got from this community. Early in my career, a friend of mine from college named Bob Kaiser took me to Westport to meet his uncle Jerry Kaiser, who was a businessman, but he was also involved in politics. And Jerry Kaiser said to me, Bob tells me you're interested in public service and politics. I just want to give you one piece of advice. In politics, you can never do it all on your own. There's too much to do. You have to be dependent on other people. So here's my advice. Choose your dependencies wisely. In other words, he said two things. Don't make yourself dependent on one single person or one group of people so you lose your independence. And generally, be dependent on people that you trust. So it was my blessing throughout my career in elective office and public service here to be dependent on the people in this greater Hartford community. And most of all, I wanted to come here tonight and thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart. So when I spoke to Rabbi Gopin about a week ago about, what, if anything, he'd like me to say, he said, just say what you said in 2006. So I said, you think I remember? But he said, I happen to have a tape. He sent me the tape. And I spoke that night about the fact that I believed then, and I still believe, that we are a blessed generation of Jews, that we live in a time of miracles. And the two great miracles are the reestablishment of the state of Israel in our lifetime. Jews have been separated from the land, had been till 48 for almost 2,000 years, prayed for it, yearned for it, ultimately worked for it through the Zionist movement. And it's our blessing to be alive at a time when that happened. The second blessing was and is the United States of America and all the freedom and opportunity.
Senator Joseph Lieberman was born in 1942 in Stamford, Connecticut.
It's okay with me. I liked it so much you could play it again. Yeah. So
the blessings of America. We have never, in our thousands and thousands of years of history, lived in a place that has given us more respect and opportunity than America, outside of Israel, obviously. And I added a third miracle, which was Chabad, which I said then, and I believe today, it was the most dynamic and in many ways important movement in the Jewish world in our time. So now we flash forward to today, and it's a time of crisis. And the first two miracles that I talked about, Israel and America and Jewish participation in America, are under a kind of threat that they have never been before. But I do want to suggest in general terms that the third miracle, which is the message of Chabad, can help us through this crisis to a time of greater strength. Before I do that, I just want to tip my kippah, my yarmulke, to Rabbi Joseph Gopin. 46 years. I met him in 1977. I never had a problem understanding a word you said, because you speak just like my grandmother, and I understood her perfectly. He was the first shliach of the Rebbe in Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken. And now there's a network over the state in all parts that is really quite remarkable. And this symbol of light, lamplighters, is so powerful for this group. I heard the Rebbe say once at a Farbrengen, comparing the transfer of water and light, that if you pour water from a pitcher into a glass, there's less water in the pitcher, obviously. But if you take a light that you have and reach out and touch a candle that somebody else is carrying, or in the context of Chabad, you touch that inner flame of Judaism that is in every Jew, your light remains as strong as ever. And in so many ways, over these 46 years, Rabbi Joseph Gopin, Yussel, like me, has done that over and over again with your help. So God bless you, thank you, and I can't wait for the next 46 years. So we learn from history if we're smart. We learn not to make the mistakes of history, and we learn lessons of strength from history. So I want to go back to a time in history when there was as much foreboding and peril about Israel as there is today, although we're overcoming it. The time was May of 1967, and the Arabs, led by Gamal Abdel Nasser, who was then the leader of Egypt, reached a conclusion that they had achieved military superiority over Israel. And in May of that year, Nasser announced his intention to annihilate and exterminate Israel. On May 22nd of that year, 67, he closed the Straits of Tiran to Israeli shipping and foreign ships bringing anything of consequence to Israel. The very next day, the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent a message to the Chabad community in Israel, assuring them that the Lord of Israel will not slumber or sleep. I am anticipating hearing good news quickly. Well, next, Egypt and Syria announced that they were combining their armies, and Nasser flew to Amman and made a similar agreement with King Hussein. So now the three strongest armies in the Arab world were united against Israel. And on May 27th, they announced their aim was nothing less than the destruction of Israel. There was terrible fear in Israel and throughout the Jewish world. Many foreign-born Israelis left the country, but the Rebbe sent an urgent message to his followers there to stay in Israel, to continue to learn Torah, to continue to do mitzvahs, and to do everything they could to help prepare for the war effort that he knew was coming. And he said finally, and I quote, "Do not be afraid or frighten others. Do not be afraid or frighten others." On the 28th of May, 67, the Rebbe gave a memorable speech at a Lag BaOmer parade in Crown Heights. He talked very explicitly about the fact that war was coming in the Middle East against Israel. But he said, God is guarding Israel, and the people of Israel will emerge from the current situation with a remarkable victory. No one else was saying that at the time. And yet, a short time later, beginning on June 5th, 1967, Israel did in fact begin a war that resulted in the Six-Day War, which resulted in the transformation of Israel and a remarkable victory. So let me move that to today and say quite simply that I believe that the Rebbe would be and is pleased by the reaction of Jews in Israel and around the world to the terrible, barbaric terrorist attack by Hamas on Israel. It's just what the Rebbe's words from 67 inspire us to do. Hadassah and I happened to have been in Israel for Sukkot, visiting our family there. And therefore we were there on Simchat Torah, October 7th, when the Hamas attack occurred. When it first happened, I was stunned by how prepared our children and grandchildren were to go to the mamad, the security room, the safe room in the house, and how focused they were on, and not fearful, just as the Rebbe said, don't be afraid and don't frighten others. And by the end of the day, Motzei Shabbat, after Shabbat, already on the internet, there was a call out to bring food to a particular spot in the area of Yerushalayim where they live. I went with my daughter. The cars were lined up. The people were lined up. The next day they held a blood drive, and it has continued that way. Remember, not so long ago, Israel was absolutely divided by the political differences over the so-called judicial reform laws. That day, I can tell you from my family and their neighbors, there was tremendous anger that this attack was not foreseen and stopped. But they put all that aside, and the country has not been as unified, I think, since the founding of the state. There's a wonderful quote, I think, from the Rambam, that at Har Sinai, that more than 2 million Jews who were there when the Torah was given were like one people with one heart. And I have that feeling today. I'm just going to tell you about one family because it happens to be our family. Our son-in-law is a psychiatrist. He's a busy psychiatrist, but he put things aside, and he's spending 3 days a week at a special military hospital that's been sent up for soldiers from the front lines who are traumatized. Our daughter just does whatever she can in the neighborhood. The funniest one and you gotta love her for it. She tells us that she read online that some of the farmers in Israel, because so many of the workers and marketers are activated for military duty, they can't get their product to market. So she buys, you're gonna like this, 271 pounds of tomatoes. Oy. So, and then she tells all her neighbors online how she got these tomatoes, and she'll have them, this is last Shabbat, Erev Shabbat, to sell. She sold out all the tomatoes and sent a check to the farmers. And to me, the most poignant was they're blessed with 6 kids, 5 boys and a girl. And the 10-year-old, Mayor Nachshon, with the spirit of Nachshon, Hani said to us, Mayor told me that he wants to get up at 4:30 this morning. She said, why? He said they told us in school that at that hour has been the time of the most intense battles for the IDF. And he says, I want to get up and daven for the IDF. Oy. So I was so proud. I'm about to choke up here because I cried really in pride. But that's one family. But believe me, it's happening in every family in Israel. And we can only hope and pray, and I do with confidence, that unity and strength will be sustained when this war is over and Hamas is defeated. Amen. Now, the reaction in America, in the Jewish community, has been so strong, so proud, so generous in support of Israel, and it matters enormously to the Israelis. And it's come not just from Jews, but from non-Jews. Hey, somebody told me there's a table of Albanians here tonight. Is that right? Yeah. Well, these are also my people. We drew. I really appreciate that you're here, and I'm honored by it. So, thank you. Happens that fate brought us together. Incidentally, the country of Albania, as you may know, was the only country in Europe which had more Jews in it after the Second World War than before. This is a Muslim country that opened their hearts to Jews from the Shoah. And I was blessed to have the opportunity in the Senate during the conflict in Kosovo, particularly, to stand with the Albanians. They deserved it. Okay, the second part of what's happened in America, which has shaken me, and I'm sure all of you, is the despicable and shocking upsurge in anti-Semitism. And it's been particularly shocking to me because I have lived so much of my life in public. And here's the state of Connecticut, Jewish population, 2%. I never faced any anti-Semitism. And hey, I got elected Attorney General twice, a US Senator 4 times. I ran for Vice President of the United States. I never faced any anti-Semitism nationally. In fact, I always like to say, I don't want to relitigate the results again, but politics is like sports, comes down to the numbers. And it's just a wonderful thing to say about America, not about me, that the one time there was a Jewish American on the ticket, we got 545,000 more votes than the other ticket. So God bless America. So what's happened? Part of it is social media. Part of it is leaders who are not leading and lowering the level of dialogue in our country, opening up to just foul discussion and expression of hatred, obviously not just against Jews, but against all sorts of other minority groups as well. People would say to me, do you think if someone ran, this is before the last month or so, a Jewish person ran on a national ticket, would they also not face anti-Semitism? And I said, I believe not. Of course, now I worry about it. But I also said, trust me, I never thought there were no anti-Semites in America. But the ethic in our country was so negative to them that they didn't dare to express it. That's all off now, and we have to work together to push it back under the rocks into the caves from which these people came. And, we are the days of what a friend of mine calls Uncle Jakeism, which is like Uncle Tomism, where Jews think if you just go along and stay quiet, it's going to get better. We know that's not true from our own history, certainly prior to the Shoah. So the Jewish community, and thank God so many of our friends in the non-Jewish community are standing up and fighting the anti-Semitism. Jews who have been generous contributors to college campuses where the university administration is not protecting its Jewish students have simply stopped giving money. Right. Lawsuits are being filed on behalf of students on those campuses. And fellow Americans who represent by far the clear majority have been agitated and activated to fight against anti-Semitism alongside us. So I must say, I think to catch the spirit of what the Rebbe said in 1967, this will end with a remarkable victory by the IDF over Hamas, which will give Israel the kind of security it has not had for most of its existence. Right. But it will also end with another kind of victory, which would have pleased the Rebbe as much, which is a spiritual, and you might say, sociological victory, which is that, as I said a moment ago, Israel will be more united than it ever has been. We Jews and those who love Israel in America who are not Jewish will be more united. One people, one family, because of our faith in one God. And here in America, I think the tolerance for anti-Semitism will no longer exist. And that will go over to all the other bigotry that have been experienced by other groups in our society. So in thanking you for honoring me and thanking Chabad for what it has meant for all these years here in the greater Hartford area, and in thanking you who have made that possible, and frankly in allowing me, as I said earlier, to thank the greater Hartford community for all you have meant to me, I express my optimism that really the future, as we work our way through this terrible hurt and crisis, will be better than the past has been. As always, we will depend on our emunah, our faith in God, and we will ask God's blessings. But as always, too, we will know that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own. And as I look around America and Israel today, I am confident that that work is being done and that we have every reason to be optimistic about the time ahead for us and the world. Thank you very much. God bless you.